Welcome to the Gentleman's Guide to Vampires. I do know that after our last discussion you got on the phone to one of your contacts out in Vancouver and you asked about the bloodlines I mentioned in our last little education ceremony, the Gaki and the Bushi. I must commend you for your ingenuity. There is nothing worse and more painful than when you arrive to these things acting like a simpleton with no grounding in the basics of esoteric bloodlines. However, I must regretfully tell you that the information that your contact in Vancouver gave you was incorrect. How do I know all of this? How do I know you approached him? Well, my mind often stays adrift on the astral tide. There is very little that I do not know that is going on, especially when it pertains to me. Anyhow, your contact informed you that the Gaki and the Bushi were Kuei-jin, that they were in Vancouver at one point in the last 20 years, and the terms that they used to refer to themselves were Gaki and Bushi. And as far as you were concerned, and your contact, that was that. Ultimately, they turned out to be the Cathayans that you know and love, and Gaki and Bushi were terms long forgotten. I am here to illuminate the hidden secrets of the Gaki and the Bushi, for they do exist. They are Cainite bloodlines, and the Kuei-jin were, well, their error was in overestimating our knowledge base. Perhaps if I had been around I would have been able to spot them as identity thieves immediately, but I was not here at that time, and, well, the Gaki and the Bushi do exist. The Kuei-jin came over here believing that we knew of the real Gaki and Bushi, and believed that they could imitate them to such a fine degree that we would not be able to tell them from the real thing. The tragic truth of it being that we have long forgotten the Gaki and the Bushi, especially in America, so their entire masquerade, their ruse, was for naught. The Bushi, let us start with them. The truth of that Nipponese bloodline, Japanese, often based in Hokkaido and Honshu and the other isles thereabouts. They very rarely leave the islands, especially in these nights, from what I know. But the Bushi, they have a tale that I enjoy telling. It would be remiss of me to not instantly point out that I believe that they are a bloodline of the Nosferatu. If they are not, well, if they are yet another Cappadocian bloodline, I will be very, very disappointed in my forebears, for it seems that we have been quite prolific in sowing our vitae oats across the world, with, far too many. But the Bushi, whilst they take their name of Bushido, samurai, are not at all like that supposed honourable warrior caste. I believe that they are named after an irony. They style themselves as such, as mercenaries to lords, as soldiers that lead men, as liberators, and a higher status of society. However, they are little more than beggars. They are little more than, well, diseased little ugly sycophants. They wear the masks of the samurai quite often. This is perhaps where they got their name of the Bushi, ceramic or boiled leather into contorted faces of hideousness that do them no favours. Indeed, when you remove the mask they look even worse behind it, their face often resembling something decayed or crawling with maggots. It seems that the Bushi are incapable of ridding themselves entirely of vermin. Some have taken to scraping the skin off of their face ritually, every single morning, my foolish words, every single evening upon waking. And so they have been mistaken by some, including, I understand, a Giovanni or two who have ventured out to Japan as members of the Harbingers of Skulls. It is a misnomer. They are not Harbingers of Skulls. They are just particularly keen to remove the rotting flesh from their face. That does not mean that they are not rotting elsewhere, but it can be very difficult to walk around when your legs are just bone. The Bushi. I could not tell you their original name, for I only became aware of them after they had adopted this epithet, but they are known quite often by other Cainites in the East as the Lost Souls. They have not much to cling to, these Bushi. They can never grow rich, they can never gain title, and this is perhaps why I feel they have gone for such an ironic term for their name. Their curse, as it is they cannot handle wealth That probably seems esoteric to you, it's slightly odd, but the myths surrounding the dead of the Orient go that you can lay a spirit to rest by throwing paper money at it, or even throwing coins at it. That when you bury your dead at times, you will bury them along with money. Now, I do not believe this is necessarily a Japanese piece of mythology as an origin, but somehow the Bushi have acquired this as their weakness, whether it was when they first originated as a bloodline, and indeed if they are a bloodline of the Nosferatu, I could not tell you. The originator, the eldest Bushi that I know, goes by the name of Kiriyama, and he is still active in these nights, a truly terrible being. But the reason I strongly feel that they are connected to the Nosferatu, not just for their horrific visage that they cover with a mask, but also for their disciplines. They are very skilled with obfuscation, with obfuscate, which is a far more common discipline in the East than it is in the West. It seems they got the hang of this Camarilla masquerade of yours far sooner than we ever did. A lot of the mythology surrounding vampires in the Orient is based around them being invisible, sneaking up on people, while the Jiangshi very literally appear in front of you. The Bushi have a different method of obfuscation. They have a ritual they carry out. Whenever passing through mortal environs, they would appear as if to float. They can hone the obfuscation to essentially such a degree that they will make parts of themselves disappear. So perhaps it's a form of chemistry, I am not sure. The Bushi will make to float around town, so as to resemble ghosts more than vampires. However, they will still feed, they will still remove their masks, and they do enjoy preying upon their descendants. There is a nice Giovanni touch there, that they like to haunt their families, like a family ghost, I suppose, or ancestor spirit, and so they are often treated as such, and even by the more rural and feudal families of Kyoto, and smaller provinces, of course, within Japan. As such, they are bequeathed the vitae that we often have to hunt for. They are donated such things, and indeed, the families that have grown wise to it, when they wish to lay their relatives to rest, if they wish to do so with a great deal of tumult and perhaps their own destruction, they will throw their coins, they will throw their money, they will essentially banish their ancestor, this vampire, this Bushi, with paper money. Of course, what it means is, as it takes a very literal sense, in the sense that not only can they not handle cash, but I have even heard tell that credit cards are forbidden to them, but how that is being validated, I do not know. Cash would be hard enough. It does, of course, mean the Bushi find it very, very difficult to rely on being able to exchange money. They must, now this is not just contact on skin, this would affect them on their clothes if it came near them. Much as a barley fears a holy symbol, the Bushi fear wealth, they fear currency. Is that not fascinating to you? But yes, their disciplines, potence and obfuscate, so not only are they able to hide, but they also strike with some ferocity, and that ties them into the Nosferatu. Their third discipline, however, is a form of necromancy, and this is why I hesitate in saying that they could perhaps be some vile offshoot of Clan Cappadocian, Cappadocius again not being able to restrain himself on his many wanderings. But I do not see it. There is more in common between the Bushi and the Nagaraja in that case, for they deal with not only the summoning and binding of spirits, but also the consumption of them, which is, well, something the Harbingers have also dealt with at times, but it is not a practice that we particularly enjoy. They have made a veritable art form of it, and so these vampires not only act as terrors over their family, but also protectors. Where there are ghosts, wraiths, the restless dead, these Bushi will sometimes control them in order to exchange for vitae. There's almost a salubri-like madness there. They are wanting the blood to be given to them willingly, but there is no dependency from them to do so. How have the Bushi actually affected the world? Well, regretfully, I must say that they have not. They have always stayed rather localised, and they never seem to have fallen prey to the Niktuku. They are quite often seen by Western kindred that actually visit Japan as Nosferatu, or indeed as wraiths, for they carry themselves as ghosts who have taken solid form. However, when the Giovanni try to bind them, they find themselves a rather dangerous enemy. They've shown no anger towards Clan Nosferatu, not like the Jiangxi who despise the Nosferatu, and I perhaps think that they despise the Nosferatu due to some ancient war that the Jiangxi had with the Bushi. Bear in mind, of course, the frequent conflicts between what is now China and what is now Japan throughout history, the Jiangxi being almost territorially constantly based in China have often come to blows in that regard, but the Jiangxi have never really, done anything to exterminate the Bushi, and the Bushi have never really done much to further their own goals. It seems that their interests lie more in the spiritual world and in, protecting and, dare I say it, abusing their family. There is no kind relationship there. There is no tit for tat, really. What the Bushi are doing is abusing, molesting, and controlling their family to the point that they turn them into a cult. You can quite easily, again, see this with many a Giovanni bloodline, but the one thing I do understand is that the Bushi, these lost souls, they've recently started consorting with an entity. This is what Kiriyama has told me. They are looking for a leg up on the Asian ladder, for they all belong to a sect, these Eastern kindred, and while we do not find ourselves privy to it in the West, they wish to become more powerful in this sect, and if they cannot do so by wealth and power, resources, perhaps they can do so via more foreign means. Perhaps you have heard of an entity that the lupine sometimes refer to as the worm. I do not know their connection to it, or indeed if they have a connection to it, but somehow their form of necromancy, which may well just be a very specified form of thaumaturgy, has them contacting creatures in the nether realm, in the Shadowlands, that the Harbingers, the Giovanni, would never dare to consort with. It's almost like they've found the gap between the Shadowlands and the Abyss that the Sombra like to dabble with, and in that gap there are some very, very strange entities with nothing but malignant intention. However, the Bushi appear to have found common ground with them, and I will be very interested to see what these mask-wearing paupers, these lost souls, who cling to family as if it means anything to the dead, will do with this potential power that they may raise from the Shadowlands. Samurai, they are not. They can hit hard, and if they have a sword, they will strike it straight through you. Monsters, most definitely. I feel that while we have underestimated them, and certainly the Asian Canaanites have done so for several centuries, the time of the Bushi may be drawing near. Perhaps they just have not achieved their epoch yet, and it is just around the corner.